Welcome back to Spirit Sherpa, where we bring prosperity to spiritpreneurs. My name is Kelly Sparta. I am a spiritual business coach and a transformational shaman. So, welcome back, and we are happy to have you here today. We are speaking with Kelle. Great last name. Sounds familiar. And so, Anne, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Sure. I am a speech pathologist. I've been one for over 30 years, and I specialize in what's called orofacial myology, meaning that I analyze pressures in the mouth and how it's growing and how it impacts the face and breathing and speech and sleep quality. And so I feel like we kill eight birds with one stone when I see a client. So I'm not seeking guidance in that because I've been doing that a long time. I've got a rhythm with that. I have studied manual techniques, manual therapy, craniosacral therapy for many years now, which I did incorporate into my speech practice. But now I would like to be less targeted on speech goals when it comes to craniosacral because I've done it on a lot of friends and other people who feel like they realize a lot of emotional release with
Mhm.
it. And some have reported physical improvement, like headaches gone and things like that. I'm not targeting that, but these are the
Side effects.
side effects, the consequences of just getting your tissues in better shape. I haven't. I have an office where I see my speech therapy clients, which I can see craniosacral clients in. I haven't quite figured out the business aspect of the craniosacral piece.
Okay. And in terms of the cranial sacral piece, which is a hands-on one-on-one technique, right? Do you have any additional services that you were thinking about offering into the mix as well, or are you just thinking to do session work?
Session work.
Okay. All right. So I know before we got on the call, we talked about that you needed to do a whole new business setup because your medical billing is not going to work for doing one-on-one sales to clients. So today we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about what it takes to get that set up. Okay. So the first thing you need is you need a payment processor. Now, you can do that in a variety of different ways. If you're doing one-on-one, you may want to set up a bunch of different avenues for that. So you could set up a Venmo account, but that will have to go into your personal account. They don't allow business transactions on Venmo.
Okay.
A lot of people will start on PayPal because PayPal is super simple. And you definitely want to have it going into your business account, obviously, for obvious reasons. It's easier for accounting purposes and things like that. And you could also, if you wanted to get fancy, you could go with Stripe. Okay. Stripe is a payment processor as well. I will tell you, Stripe is not friendly. It is not obvious and intuitive. It's actually quite frustrating at times. And Stripe has to be connected to a front end cart that will handle all the charges and stuff because it doesn't really have a cart option. So there's also Square. Square is another payment processor that you could use. They are a
Mhm.
little more friendly, but everybody knows PayPal and PayPal is pretty easy. The thing I would say about PayPal is make sure you get your money out. I have two different bank accounts for my income, right? I have a business income account, which never holds more than like a couple weeks worth of income. And then I transfer it out and they get the balance down to $1 because that's all it takes for me to keep the account open with my bank. So whatever the minimum balance is, as I take it down to that at the end of the 2 weeks. Because PayPal occasionally, once in a blue moon, will hold your money in perpetuity for long periods for what is almost no reason. And I've heard people losing their money entirely. I have never had that problem in 10 years of doing it, but I have enough friends who have had a problem with it that I'm like, yeah, I don't, for all my payment processors, I just keep my money out of the income account. So it also helps me to balance my books. So the money that comes in for the 2 week period, I do my books every 2 weeks. And I say, okay, this is the money that came in. Let me correlate that with what I expect it to be the case. Make sure I got everything entered into my books, balanced out. and then I transfer the money. So it's an accounting practice for me, but it's also a way to keep the merchant accounts away from my larger stack of cash, right? But PayPal is used by millions of people around the world. And from a buyer's perspective, it's a very friendly thing. People are used to using it. They have their account information saved in it. It is a very easy, low lift way for them to say yes and buy something, as opposed to if they're online, they have to get up, walk across the room, go get their credit card, go pull it out of the purse and drag it back. And then what happens in between those things? They get distracted, they wander off, they don't book, right? So PayPal is great from that perspective. I do use PayPal in my business. I like to use Stripe first because they're slightly less expensive, but in the big scheme of things, it's not that big a deal, right? You know, the difference is out of a $30 charge, I'll get, or $29 charge, I'll get 27.85 from Stripe. So you just need a payment processor. If you guys are setting up online payments, if you're listening to this, you will probably want to set up two payment processors just in case one of them shuts you down for some reason. That happens once in a while on a launch. So you want to make sure you have a backup payment processor for that. And then,
All of the processors that you've mentioned,
yes,
can people just whip out their credit card and use those?
yes. Well, so Square has, I haven't actually used Square. I've signed up for an account before, but never actually used it. So I think they have a cart available. If you're on WordPress or Wix, there are plugins that you can get that serve as your cart, and you can just have them installed on your site, and they will serve as your cart, and you just plug in the thing on the back end. There's another processor called authorize.net. They do payment processing as well. But for your business, I would just recommend PayPal. That would be my unless you have a problem with them, which, as I said, I've never had in 20 years of doing business with them. PayPal is probably going to be the easiest and fastest path for you to get this done. And then you can also, do Cash App or Venmo or whatever if you want. But a lot of people have Cash App and Venmo and things like that on their phone already. And so it's easy for them to send money. We're going for ease. That's what you're looking for.
Mhm.
PayPal is ease. It's comfort. Everybody knows it. It's super easy to get them to do it. If you take Venmo or Cash App, same thing, right? But you've got to be conscious of that. In PayPal, if you're sending out of a business account, you will pay, somebody's going to pay a 3% fee on that because it's considered the sale of a service. If a business account is sending or receiving the information, the cash, they will charge a fee on it. So your general fees are going to be about 3%. 2.99% is the average fee that you're going to pay on any transaction that you do through a payment processor. And so that'll be plus a transaction fee, which is usually like 20 to 35 cents a transaction, depending on the processor and the what they're doing and whether it's international or not. You'll pay higher fees if somebody's international, but since you're a local business, that's like unlikely to happen. But yeah, you'll pay like 4.5% on an international transaction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recommend having people pay online before they come or
Absolutely.
in person?
They pay first or they pay before the session, right? But, it's up to you. If you don't care if somebody wastes your time and doesn't show up, then, you can have them pay when they get there. But if you care if they're going to waste your time if they don't show up, then yeah, you pay in advance.
Okay.
The other option that some people do with in-person stuff is that they will not charge in advance. They'll charge when the service is complete. But if you miss an appointment, they'll charge you $50 for that, and you don't get another appointment until you've paid the $50. So you just need to know that. But if somebody's going to blow me off on a regular basis, and I might give them a freebie for the first time they do it, and then the next time they're getting the $50 charge. And if they don't come back, well, then they were planning to do that all the time. And that's not a good client, right? Okay. So that's step one. You got to get money in the door, right?
Mhm.
Step two is how are you going to get business in the door? Now you have an existing client base. So you could go to that existing client base and promote your services. That is your lowest lift way, fastest path to cash. The thing about craniosacral is that a lot of people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to go through an education process to get people to want to buy. You cannot ask them to buy and educate them at the same time. You can either educate people or you can ask them to buy, but you can't do both. Because when you're educating them, they are not yet in a position to know that they want and need what you're offering. So education is know, like, trust building. Okay. And the purchase is the I need this section, right? So that's diagnostic. So you need to, one, explain what it is. And so that will be one email to your clientele, right? And say, hey, I wanted to let you guys know I'm doing this new service, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
This is what it's about. Da, 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 da. We'll talk about this more next time. And then the next next email you send out will be here's how you know if you need cranial sacral work.
Okay.
So the first one's a pure deposit into their bank account with a new understanding of something that's being offered. The people who know what that is may book with you immediately. And you can say, if you're interested, you can book here. But I wouldn't expect a lot of people to book unless they really already know what cranial sacral is and they want you to do it for them. Those are going to be the only people who book off of that first email. Okay. The second email is here's the symptoms that indicate that you need cranial sacral work. And you may, if there's a lot, and I believe that there are, you will do a series of emails around how do you know if you need cranial sacral, right? And you'll do 2 or 3 max per email and explain this, these are the symptoms and these are the things and these are the results and blah, blah, blah. And every email should have, here's the symptoms to know whether or not you need this. And here's a testimonial from somebody who's had it and their results. And the results don't necessarily have to match the symptoms, although it would be great if they did.
Okay.
And then that's your sequence that you're going to send out to your clients, your past clients. So once a month, right? It's a slow burn because you don't want to have people dropping off your list because you're banging them on the head with cranial sacral constantly, right? You need to give them other things in between, right? And then for bringing in new business, then you have to start ranking for searches. And you'll need to do a little bit of research because there's some new stuff coming out right now. And I'm still doing my research. So that's why I'm not just giving it to you because I want to make sure that when I give it to you, I give you the right stuff. But there's new stuff coming out right now that's talking about how do you rank for AI-based search? Because the way of Google is changing and all of the search engines out there actually are coming up. They're having AI present results at the top. And instead of most people clicking through to the website, most people are looking at the AI answer. And if you don't get cited in the AI answer, then you don't get the traffic.
Yep.
So you're going to want to start creating blog posts and page optimization for AI search.
Okay.
And that can be quite significant in terms of that. There's word on the street that Google may be coming out with a new thing where they render a specialized page on your website for AI so that rather than it landing on your site, it generates, it crawls your site and pulls together the information it understands from crawling your site and generates a page that looks like it's your site for the person to land on that's very specific to their search. It is both awesome and terrifying, right? Because, we've all seen AI hallucinate. God knows what the AI is going to say you do.
Right.
But if you're not optimized in that way, it is also a equalizer for the little practitioner to balance out with the large site, the large company site. So, I mean, it's good and bad. And I'm not even sure it's going to happen. They're just talking about it right now. So it may or may not happen, but it is being discussed in the AI world right now. There are a wide variety of different things that you have to look at in regards to SEO, but you definitely want to be. Do you know what SEO stands for?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for those of you out there who may not, it's search engine optimization. Okay. So it's the thing that lets people find you and your website. And so the, obviously the search terms you're going to look for are craniosacral therapy, right? And anything that it fixes, right? So migraines, headaches, whatever other things, nervous system resets. I'm assuming that craniosacral can do that. I don't know. We weren't talking nervous system resets when I was doing craniosacral 20 years ago, when I was getting it. But I'm thinking I really would like some now. So find a practitioner in Boquete. But you want to look at all the symptoms that you solve, because that's what people are going to be looking for, right? How to cure a headache, or recurring headaches, or migraines, or whatever, right? Recurring headache treatments, migraine treatments, those you want to. If you go to Ask the Public, I think that's the right thing. Let me go look. I'm going to make sure I have that right. Askthepublic.com. There's a site that is where you ask, or you type in the search term, and it will give you all the questions people ask around that search term. And you can use that to figure out how to optimize your SEO on your website, to figure
Yeah.
out what to write articles about, or to have AI write articles about for you. Because a lot of this stuff nobody's going to actually read. It's just things for the search engines to find you through.
And this has been my hesitation about pursuing the business end of it, because I know a lot of advertising is focused on pain points,
Yes.
and I really don't want to focus on pain points.
So what you have to do is the purpose of focusing on pain points, because I'm with you. I don't like to bang on people's pain points, right? But you do have to. The purpose of hitting the pain point is to say, I see you, I see your pain, I understand your pain, and I can fix it. Right? So when you look at it from that perspective, so when I did a lot of marketing for my personal growth, spiritual growth programs, my Woo series. And I'm pivoting right now to B2B. But when I was doing B2C, so B2B, business, B2C, business, consumer, I was marketing, and I would say, these are your middle of the night thoughts, right? These, you're dealing with anxiety, worry, dread, self-doubt, inner and outer judgments, and you need a foundation of self-support and courage, right? You look from the outside like you've got it all together, but on the inside, you're a wreck. And you feel like you don't know anything, and you're not any good, and you're never good enough, no matter how amazing you are. You may be incredibly competent, but you never feel good enough. And all of this, right? That's hitting pain points, right? But it's also telling people that you see them, because they don't tell anybody about this stuff, and that you understand the pain, and that you've been there. And so it's a relationship creator, right? There's ways to do it that don't make it easy and nasty, right? This is not bro marketing. This is just letting people know that you understand what's going on with them. And when you're dealing with craniosacral, it's, what are the things that craniosacral solves?
Could be a number of things, but
Right? Give me a sample.
in terms of pain points,
Yeah, just the sample of things that it solves.
it can help you to process emotions, to let go of things that have been weighing you down, to things get lodged in your body that, could have been a worry or concern or an anger, and you don't even know it's there. So it can help you to release that, and
In the whole body, or just in the head?
whole body.
Okay, so are you doing more than just work in the head, or is the head stuff propagating to the body?
I'm doing the whole body.
You're doing the whole body. So that's a piece that you need to identify, because when I've gone in for sessions in the past, it's just been the head. So
Really?
yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
can't imagine like what I've been studying for decades. It's the whole body.
yeah.
I've never
So,
heard someone just focusing on the head.
and yet,
And
so,
and that's why it's called craniosacral. It's
okay. So you want to be clear that that's the case as you're educating people about the practice. So you're doing emotional release, you're doing energetic release, you're doing different things like that, right? So the words
I
you
mean,
want to stay away from are trauma, okay? Just because I mean for your services you probably would be okay with that, but those can be kind of problematic. So there are words that you can't use on Facebook, okay?
you'll
So
be censored.
meaning that they won't allow you to place an ad with those words in it,
Yeah.
okay?
Like how I would love to structure a session is someone
Mhm.
comes in and tells me something they want in their life as opposed
Okay.
to something they want to get rid of. And then I can scan their body and see where any of the roadblocks to what it is they want are in the way, and we get rid of that. And then they can
Okay.
be more open energetically to receive what they want.
I get that's what you would most want. It is gonna severely limit your audience because 90% of people go away from what they don't want and 10% of people go towards what they do want. And so that's leaving 90% of the market behind. And so if you want that, then you need to be focusing on people who are already in a self-awareness practice. And so you're going to want people who are workshop attendees, they're parts of different spiritual communities, personal growth communities, people who are spiritual practitioners, people who are, already in a pathway. You could even go into like the addiction communities for people who've been there for more than 5 years. Once they hit the 5 year mark, a lot of the addiction community people transition into moving towards what they want
Hmm.
and taking a more active role in that. That's been my experience with those communities. You're looking for people who are on a personal growth path because that's when people start to make that transition. And so that would be my focus if that's the people that you want and that's the way you want to do it. But
Okay.
even then there are pain points, right? It's like you want this, but you haven't been able to get there. That's the pain point is that the frustration of
Yep.
something's in my way and I can't figure out what it is.
Yep.
Right? That's the pain point right there. And you still have to say that out loud.
Okay.
And then it's like, okay, well, I've been working my butt off for this and I'm not getting traction. So what do I do? You say, "Oh, you come to see me." Right? And that's the pain point and the solution. You still have to do that. Okay? And so, you I know you came to me, I think through the holistic entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, that group would be a great place to market that because that's all those people, right? Same idea. You got to be careful with some of the spiritual groups online because a lot of them are filled with some really problematic people. They've got people scamming people, they've got people who are just in victim mode. If it's a large spiritual group that is not specifically focused on people who are further along, you got to be careful. Just look at the feed, you'll be able to tell whether the energy is right or not.
Yeah. I don't know that I can advertise my business on that because Marissa's thing is she's has her website and you apply to become part of that. I don't know if people ever can advertise their personal services on the page itself.
You could ask.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that type of group is the right type of group. Okay, next thing is getting people in the door, right? So the other place is, you're in a physical location. So local marketing is a good idea. So I would market your services at like, where in Massachusetts are you?
Tewksbury.
Tewksbury. Okay, so Women of Wisdom still up there?
I don't know what that is.
Okay. So there is last I was there, I haven't been there in like 10 years. So I don't know if they're still around, but they were around for a long time. So there's Open Doors down in Quincy. There's the Enchanted Fox out in Medway. And there was Women of Wisdom in Andover. And so just look for spiritual stores, right? Metaphysical
Okay.
stores, spiritual stores. You're close enough to Salem that you might be able to get some business from Salem, maybe. And so Salem's politically controlled, not by politicians, but there's a politics to the pagan community in Salem. And so if you're not willing to navigate the politics of the pagan community in Salem, then it's not probably not worth it. But if you can get in there, there's a ton of people who come through Salem every year who are all interested in sort of the tourists are probably not your market, but the practitioners in town probably are.
Can you tell me a little bit about the politics there?
It's just it's a very I don't know. It's a lot of egos, right? It's that kind of politics. So I knew people who were practitioners in Salem and I heard stories, but I didn't spend a lot of time there, so I don't know the details. I just know that you can go and talk to individuals and individuals may be amenable to referring you, right? But,
Mhm.
in the larger scheme of things, you may not want to get involved in the larger scheme of things, is what I'm saying, if you don't like drama. So anyway, so looking for metaphysical stores, right? Spiritual stores,
Okay,
that sort of thing. Those are people who are likely to have the people that you want in your system. And I know that there's a
great.
Human Awareness Institute community in the Boston area. In order to get into that, you have to do one of their workshops. That's up to you as to whether or not you want to do that. But they have a huge community in the Boston area, and they would all be your people. There's the tantra communities up there. Those would be good. Yoga studios, about 40% of the people who come through a yoga studio would be your people. Definitely the yoga instructors would all be your people. Any massage therapist would probably be somebody who might be interested. And, anybody else doing healing work in your area, Reiki masters, Rolfers, anybody who's doing anything healing based in your market would be there too. I know you guys also have a modern mystery school practitioner in the area. And then there's the pagan community, but the pagan community, I don't know, that's hit or miss. I would probably not be shooting into that in terms of trying to get people from there. But you get the idea. You're looking for people who are in related but non-competing. They're not doing exactly what you're doing, but they're doing adjacent things to what you're doing.
Yeah.
I would stay away from things like BNI for you because the people who are in BNIs generally, not exclusively, but generally are not super into this sort of stuff.
What is BNI?
Business Networking International. They're a
No.
networking group. Okay.
Got it. Yep.
But you could do any I don't know if the Personal Growth Network is still operating on Meetup up there, but there was one and that was big. You can talk to any coaches in the area would be good potential clients for you. Therapists, you could get referrals from therapists.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking what I do could be very complementary to a psychologist session
Yeah.
if they
But they're not going to be the people generally that you want. The people that a therapist is going to refer, the average therapist is working with people who are trying to get functional. They're not people who are trying to optimize their life.
okay. I
Not
was thinking
exclusively, but on average, right?
that
Yeah.
they could work it out of their body and then they right after the session they'd be primed to talk about
Yeah.
what they're
But
processing.
again, the other thing to keep in mind with therapist referrals, and you'd be great for a therapist themselves, but the thing about a therapist referral is that the therapist referral is going to expect insurance to pay for it, and you're not doing that. That's another piece to the puzzle is people who are going to therapists are usually not as well funded as people who are going to coaches.
Okay. So
Uh,
when you say coaches, do you mean any type of coach?
Yeah, I don't see why not. If they're working on optimizing their life in some way, there should be. Can you think of an instance that somebody would be going to a coach that they wouldn't benefit from what you're doing? Career coaching, maybe not, right? Ex- but executive coaches, sure.
I mean, what are all the types of coaches out there?
Yeah, there's health coaches, there's physical trainer coaches, there's now the people who are doing physical training, maybe their people are not exactly who you want because they're doing it more for health reasons and less for personal development reasons. You just got to think about why people go to those types of coaches, right?
Yeah.
Career coaching, somebody's likely unemployed, right? So they're not going to be spending extra cash. job search coaches, things like that. Those are not going to be your people. You just got to think about where is the person in their life right now, and are they likely the person that you want, and do they have the cash to pay you, right?
Yep.
Don't market into markets that don't have the cash to pay you.
Do you think that location is extremely important for private pay?
I think location can be very important. I think as long as you're in a middle class or up neighborhood, I think you're okay. If you're in a very depressed neighborhood, that could be problematic because people who are middle class and up are not going to want to come to the depressed neighborhood. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Makes sense.
So okay, and then accounting. I'm going to suggest a book. It's called Profit First, and it's by Michael Michalowicz. So Michael Owitz. And that book will show you how to run your personal finances and your business finances. It was revolutionary for me. It changed my life. I'd been running businesses for 20 years, and it took me from dreading tax season and not having my books done at the end of the year and scrambling and spending an entire week trying to get my taxes done and then scrambling and trying to find a credit card to put the taxes on because I didn't have the money in the bank account to every time I have the money sitting in the bank account, it's not a problem. It's covered. My taxes take me like a day and a half to do, and it's all good. And I have a handle on my business all the time. So that book has been revolutionary for me, and I highly recommend it to everybody who goes into business. Yeah. So, when you're setting up your bank accounts, you're going to want to set up a business account, an operating account, business operating. So I call it operating expenses, OPEX, right? And then you have a business income account, which is where the money comes in from your payment provider, right? Your merchant account. And then you have a savings account for your taxes. And if you're doing advance payments, this isn't going to be as important for you, but for somebody who's like doing long-term coaching and you get paid up front for an entire package of things, it's nice to have a prepaid account where you're paying yourself out as you deliver on those services and gives you a buffer of income. And so that sort of thing is helpful. And then you may have specialty accounts that you need. So if you're running retreats, when I run retreats, I have two separate bank accounts for two different retreats that happen at the same, if I'm marketing two retreats at the same time, right? So I have an account for retreat one and an account for retreat two. And all of the money that comes in and all of the expenses for that retreat go in and out of those accounts, because that way I can keep track by retreat how much money I'm making on each event. And I'm funding that event out of the revenues from that event, right? So it just depends on what your business is and how you run it as to how you set up your bank accounts. But those are the minimums, right? So you'll need to register if you're probably just going to use your name, so you won't have to register a fictitious name with the state. But if you were running under a business name, like I have a corporation, I have an LLC, which if you don't have an LLC, I would highly recommend you get an LLC. It is a liability shield, especially if you're touching people physically, and you should probably have some kind of insurance for malpractice, some sort of insurance for that, and insurance on the property that you're doing the work at. So there should be a business liability insurance. And so all of those things, the fictitious filing. So for an LLC, I had to file with the state of Virginia because that's where my business is located, and just say, hey, this is my business name and I'm an LLC and I'm registering it here, and that makes it official. And then you'll need to have a filing with the federal government if you pay any wages. You can file an LLC under your social security number if you're not paying any wages out. If you pay any wages out, then you're going to have to file for an EIN number, which is very easy to do online. Just don't screw it up. Be careful just make sure you get it right when you do it, because fixing it takes weeks. Okay. So be careful when you file it. And it takes 5 minutes to do it online, and it doesn't cost anything. And it gets you your EIN number that you use to file your Schedule C for your taxes, right? For a pass-through LLC. Pass-through LLC means it's treated as income for you personally rather than corporate income. And that gets a lot more complicated. We're not doing that today. But most people will want a pass-through LLC at this stage in their business if they're doing an LLC.
I have an LLC for my speech practice. Do you
Okay.
think I can just do it under that?
You can. The downside of doing it together is that if somebody sues you, they can come after the other business's income too. That's the downside. The upside is you only have one Schedule C. So,
Massachusetts, it's expensive. I already have 2 LLCs. That's $1,000 a year.
ooh, okay. That's as pass-throughs, or are they as corporations? Are you paying yourself a payroll check every month?
No.
Okay, so you're not paying yourself out of payroll, so then that's probably a pass-through then. That's pricey. In Virginia, it's $200 to set it up and $50 a year to maintain it. So,
It's $500 a year here.
ooh, that sounds like a corporate tax though, not an LLC tax, not a pass-through LLC tax. I would check that with your accountant because
He does my taxes every year and he sees what fees I'm paying.
right, I know, but there's a difference between there's a difference between the two. If you're setting up as a corporation, a C corp, you
In
pay as
In every state, there's a difference?
yes. Legally, there is a difference between a C corp and an LLC
Well, yeah.
and a pass-through LLC. So there's an C corp, S corp, and an LLC.
Yeah.
And so C corps are very expensive to maintain. They are usually hundreds of dollars a year to maintain. And the S corps are depends on the state as to whether they're treated as a C corp pricing wise for recurring expenses. And LLCs, pass-through LLCs are usually pretty cheap because they're expecting small business owners to use them. So I would check
Okay.
with your accountant and see what he set you up with because
He didn't set it up, I set it up.
you set it up. Okay. I could be wrong. It could just be expensive because it's Massachusetts. But yeah. So the short answer is yes, you can run it under there if you want to. You are opening the liability shield to your existing business as well as the new one with that. And obviously, consult an attorney. I'm not an attorney. So there's your disclaimer. And, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I'm telling you what I know from my personal business experience. And please consult your professionals who are actually paid to know this stuff before you make decisions. But these are just my understandings from this perspective of doing this for ages. Okay. What else do we need to do for startup? Anything else? Is there anything you feel like we're missing?
No.
You have your venue, right?
Yep.
You have your office, so you're using given that you're doing it out of your office and the same office that you're running the other business, check with an attorney, but I think that they'd probably be able to pierce the shield of a new LLC anyway because you're running them out of the same location. I mean, you'd have to be really, really particular with your accounting practices, and you'd have to have your new company pay your other company for rent and things like that in order for it to not be obvious that you're running the same business. And even then it'd be tough, I think. But if you're careful, maybe. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I'm just best guess based on worst case scenario thoughts. Yeah. Okay. Then I think we're going to call this good for today and tell people where they can find you if they want to come in and get a session from you. If this has sounded interesting and they're in the Massachusetts area near Tewksbury, how do they find you?
Well, my speech practice is Big Mouth Speech Therapy.
Okay.
And my website is Big Mouth Speech. I don't think there's a therapy at the end of that. BigMouthSpeech.com. So you can contact me through that website.
And they can get the craniosacral that way? Okay. And at the very moment, they can get it for cash. After that, you'll figure out the payment plan. Okay, great. So guys, if this has been helpful for you, please pass it along to somebody that you know who might need help getting their business off the ground. Pay your karma back for what you've received here. And we appreciate it every minute of every day. We're trying to get our mission into the world of helping spiritual practitioners get their businesses up and profitable. And that's it for this week. Remember, what you focus on expands, what you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.
Thank you very much, Kelly.